Welcome to the French Wedding Podcast with your host Naïm, the only podcast in English about weddings in France. Great conversations, tips and insights about your French wedding, some wisdom before your big day, and the opportunity to hear wedding professionals actually living and working in France, only for your day to be the most amazing to remember.
Hello everyone and welcome to the French Wedding Podcast. Greetings from France. This is the place where we're recording this show. I'm Naïm, professional ceremony officiant based in my hometown Paris, and I created this show especially for future brides and grooms willing to get married in Paris or anywhere in France. Each episode is an occasion to meet a main actor of the industry, can be a vendor such as a wedding planner, hair and makeup artist, bridal salon, videographer, venue owner, bloggers, you name it. This show exists to bring you some insight about how people do things in France regarding the wedding industry, but we also share funny stories, things to know, and special memories when we happen to work together on the very same wedding. My guest today is a third-generation California artist based in the Mojave Desert, where she pursues now painting full-time. She is known for her color-intense palette and loose brush strokes of figures and landscapes. She teaches workshops in the beautiful Joshua Tree National Parks and blogs about creativity. In 2020, she opened her own Etsy shop called French Press, a collection of cards, calendars, and paper goods inspired by travel sketches and watercolors created in France, where she fell in love with the city of lights and the French countryside. Please welcome to the show, Janis Commentz. Janis, welcome to the show.
I'm delighted to be here.
I'm delighted that you're here as well. And it's a very special episode. As everyone knows on the audience, I really love California. And it's not the first time that we're going there, but now we're going live. So it's 9 a.m. for you, Janis, and it's 6 p.m. in Paris.
Yes.
So I am really grateful that we can have this time together around the internet, around Zoom, our favorite ally since the pandemic. How are you today?
I am doing really well. It's beautiful here. We've had lovely spring weather and, as much as, the desert blooms. So we do have.
Let's talk about the desert. You are located in the Mojave Desert. Do I pronounce this well?
Yes, Mojave.
Great. Mojave.
Absolutely.
And you are a teacher, a painter, a traveler, a blogger, and an encourager. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Starting maybe at the beginning, because
Yes.
I grew up very near the coast in Los Angeles. And I don't know if you ever went to Palos Verdes when you were there, which is
beautiful. Yes.
Beautiful area. Absolutely gorgeous. I went to college a little more inland in a place called Redlands, Riverside County. And when I was looking for teaching jobs, guess where I was hired? Out here. I'll be honest, when I first came, I was not very thrilled with the idea of the desert.
Okay.
I loved the beach and the green,
Yeah.
but they were going to pay me real money. So I came out here. And I did teach for several decades. I taught English and art, and I majored in both. And really, I had a very nice experience teaching.
Yeah.
And several years ago, I retired, and I dove into my painting full time.
So you decided to paint and start to follow your passion, but you were painting since a long time.
My mother and her twin brother were both artists, not by profession, but my uncle was an engineer, but he painted a lot. They were both really quite good. My grandmother, and this is interesting, I'll add this because I wrote down this morning that I love the idea that you're a celebrant. And I love that word because we're celebrating life events and things for people. My grandmother, during the Depression, was near Hollywood, and she created a business where she made beautiful floral arrangements artificial out of fabric and silk and that kind of thing. And she decorated the large hotels, the Biltmore and such.
Oh, wow.
They had like a subscription, and every, month or so, she would come and switch out all the bouquets.
Okay.
So, starting
Nice.
in LA, yes, I've got a little bit of a floral background, and I love ribbons and, all that sort of thing. I'm certainly not in the wedding business, but I'm charmed by it. And, I'm going to add just this morning a moment of serendipity. I did not plan this, but it's my son and daughter-in-law's anniversary today.
Okay. So
As we are recording, they've been married 6 years. So 6 years ago, I got to be the, I don't know, I don't think you call it, they call it here now the MOG, the mother of the groom.
Oh, yeah.
The funniest thing.
Yeah.
I was reading MOG. So I didn't have the full responsibility of being mother of the bride, but it was just a lovely day.
Great. So it was 6 years ago. Happy anniversary to the couple, obviously.
Yes.
That will remember that. And
so let's see. My mother painted a lot. I was always exposed to art materials, which is very nice. And I guess I'll reveal I am an only child. So
okay.
I got to make messes and play with her stuff. And even though when I went to college, my dad said, you have to major in English also because artists starve.
Yes.
Probably very good advice. He encouraged me to get my teaching credential.
It's always good to have a backup, I guess.
Yes.
So I've seen your paintings and they're very colorful and they really exude joy and many things I really like. How did you manage to start? Because it's probably the first thing that people do when they're trying to follow a passion is they're asking themselves where to start. So how did you start?
Well, I had painted, as you said, all along, but not giving myself the freedom to paint. Now that you're saying that, I'm going probably by kicking my son out of his room. I remember he was about 19 and he said he wanted to move out to an apartment. And I'm like, yes, I can have a painting studio. So
perfect.
I encouraged that in a big hurry. The first year you're kind of getting your bearings. This area, Joshua Tree, has a lot of natural beauty. And so, of course, even though I've always loved painting people, and I will add, the last maybe 5 years that I was teaching, I felt I needed to get back into drawing, and I facilitated a life drawing group.
Okay. Tell us a bit more
is
about
drawing from nude models. We didn't have a group up here. I ran that for 8 years. So every week we were drawing, sketching, and I was networking with people in the area. We have a large art association in the area that runs an open studio tour. Okay. And in October, sadly, this last month, it would have been, not last month, in 2020, it would have been the 20th year for the open studio art tours, and they were shut down. Okay. But, once you begin to get yourself into the art associations and such, it's an energy sharing event. And 1 year I actually was gallery director for our local art gallery, just because I said, okay, I'll volunteer. Boy, at the end of the year, I said, no, I need to paint. I don't know if that's answering the question.
It does, yeah.
I still love the ocean. So a couple of places that I've gone all my life are Laguna Beach. I don't know if you went there when you were here. It's exquisite.
No, but I heard of it. Yeah.
And I don't know if you traveled up the coast to Northern California or Central California.
I've been to San Diego when I was there.
Okay.
And
I'll be honest, San Diego is supposed to be like perfect. It's not my favorite place.
Yeah.
But I love up by Monterey, a place called Carmel is quite lovely. So I do like to paint by the coast as well. So
you just go there and you go alone, or do you go in groups?
Both. You know what? I have learned that solo traveling is kind of fun. So yes. I guess I will segue to France. I was retired a few years, and Actually, I was a British Lit major, which means I really liked England. I thought that was the ultimate, I'd want to go to Edinburgh and stay 6 months or whatever. And I had made 3 trips to England, but in 2018, a friend was going to run an art workshop in France.
Okay.
And his idea was that we would go to the Dordogne, and he would teach architectural painting with Procreate on the iPad. Now, at the time, I didn't even have an iPad. So I go, okay, I'm buying my iPad and playing with Procreate and trying to do this. And
sorry to interrupt. For those who don't know, Procreate?
It's a program that and I haven't used it a whole lot since then. It's a digital art program. Okay. You can paint paintings. And I'll tell you, people, even though I'm a little bit, I guess it's a whole new world to go into digital art. I like the old-fashioned way. I really do. Yes. But about 3 months before the trip, he said, call me. And he said, I don't have enough people signed up for this trip. Oh. And I'd renewed my passport. I'd bought my thing, and I was geared up to go. And I said, okay, I am going on this trip. I also talked to a friend who had lived in France. She had actually worked at the French consulate in LA. Okay. She said, Janis, this is a dream itinerary. How do you pronounce Sarlat-le-Canada?
So which one? Sorry?
Sarlat. Sarlat, that area in there, and the little villages around. She said, you will love it. She said, rent a car. You can do it.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I did. At any rate, I said, I am going to take myself on this trip by myself. Rent a car, travel around on the itinerary that he had, kind of, and see what I can do. So that took me to France in 2018. I spent a week in Paris because, of course, you have to, and 2 weeks in the Dordogne.
The Dordogne, yeah. And tell us a bit more about Paris. How because this is one of the reasons that we're talking today. People will ask themselves, why are we talking about?
And I did do quite a bit of research before I went, because that's just how I am. But I realize it is the top, or it was before the shutdown, the top destination city in the world, I guess. And I didn't even know what the arrondissements were before this, I'll be honest. I found a flat, actually with a group called Sabbatical Homes, and I was in the 7th on Rue de Sèvres. I found it lovely. And I realized, oh my goodness, I started out walking the very first day I was there, just toward the Seine. And I remember meeting a bookstore owner. This was not at Shakespeare and Company. I was not even near the river. And she said, oh, you don't really want to go down to there. There's too many tourists. Why I listened to her, I don't know. So I started heading down the road. I had an older friend here who is related distantly to Isadora Duncan, the dancer. Wow. And she said, oh my goodness, her brother had this studio on Rue de Seine, which you probably know all about.
I know it's yeah.
And so I'm walking. All of a sudden I look up and I go, oh my gosh, I'm on the Rue de Seine. How did this happen? So, I had a lot of serendipitous moments.
What was your feeling when you first discovered the streets, the atmosphere? Was it something that you were expecting, or something a bit different?
I think it exceeded my expectations.
Okay.
I came away that trip going, the French do not do ugly.
Yeah.
We have a lot of ugly buildings in the United States. I shouldn't say that, but we do. We have people that just throw things up. So every little corner, even if it was just old and maybe the paint was coming off, each detail on the windows and the houses and such were just absolutely beautiful. So my time truly, I say I fell in love with Paris, the city of light, and the French countryside, but I really did. And I didn't expect to. I
Okay.
kind of went to France going, well, I'm an art major. Who doesn't love Monet? Who doesn't love all of the French artists? I had studied them, a lot. In my youth, I really thought that was the only way to paint. And of course, I've grown and learned that there are so many other directions and fallen in love with that. But I'm returning to those roots for sure.
It's a cycle, I guess.
Yes. Life
So-
is a cycle.
But you have a big background in art, obviously. So as an artist, you discovered Paris through different eyes, I guess.
I think I did. I have to admit, I had been to Paris when I was young.
Mhm.
Right out of college, I went for that summer, and then I went job seeking. But it was on one of those horrible tours where you just bounce around to different places. So we saw a lot, but very quickly. So you can't just say I've been to the Louvre, I've seen it.
Mm.
I think because of, honestly, terrorism, etc., I stayed away from the Louvre. So on my next trip, I will definitely go and spend time there. So I explored the smaller museums, the d'Orsay, the Rodin. Somebody had told me about the Jacques Mart.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful
There is plenty.
museum. And it had that beautiful lunchroom, whatever you call it. I said, that's it. I'm treating myself. I was trying very hard to blend in with the French, which is just very hard to do as an American.
I guess. Tell us some anecdotes. I'm
Well,
all ears.
I had read that on the subway, people just don't speak. And I tend to smile at people. I tend to talk. So that first time in Paris, I just said, I am going to be serious. I put on my sunglasses and really tried to be stern.
Yeah.
When I was alone. That sounds silly, but I thought that was probably a good defense as a woman traveling alone. Just act like they belonged. And when I was in this one restaurant, here I am trying to pretend I'm French. And I realized, we eat right-handed and we eat differently. I've even heard of spies that goofed up on that one thing. So I'm trying to eat like everybody else. I guess that's a silly anecdote.
That's
from there, that particular day, I headed over to the Picasso Museum, and I really hadn't been to the Marais.
Oh,
So that was a fun place to explore. And that will be on my list next time. I almost rented a flat there, but it was down to 2 and I chose the other one. It was kind of fun. I was in, and I don't know which cafe it was, but there was a young man who was bustling around, emptying the trash. I kind of thought he was a waiter. And the more I talked to him, he was the owner of the cafe. And I always loved to talk and chat. And so he began to write down places that I needed to see. There was the huge, the open air market near there. I'm trying to think the name of it. Anyway.
Open air market. Where is it located?
Food market in the Marais.
In the Marais. There's always places opening.
Anyway, well, it's a large one that's been there forever and ever. And it has a gruesome name. I'm trying to think.
Gruesome.
I should have looked it up. That's terrible. So I went there. I just mainly walked around. And the what is the museum that's there? The Cavalier?
No. It's called
it's been closed on both of my trips.
Carnavalet.
Yes.
Carnavalet.
So say there you go. I've got something else to see. While I was there, I did come back the second time partially for an art workshop, but I was in Paris and I got this notice of an April workshop and I said, sign me up right now. I know when I came home, my family said, you're going back? And I said, yes.
Boom.
And of course, in retrospect, I'm so fortunate that I did. So I returned. I was there in July, which is not the best time for Paris, but I returned in the following April. And actually, our workshop, I was a little bit disappointed, but it was okay. It was fun. Was in Ivry-sur-Seine.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is very urban.
Very
different.
Southern Paris.
and kind of a fun experience. But I kept thinking, this is not Paris. And we would go into the city, and it was, even though it was only 3 or 4 miles, it would take a little time. So we also went to Monet's garden on that trip on Easter Sunday, which was way too crowded.
Wow, yeah, I imagine.
So I need to go back when there's nobody there. But that was a fun experience, and I got to see a different little side of it. And on that trip, I spent 2 weeks up in Brittany.
In Brittany, yeah. How was it? Did you like it?
I loved it. I knew it would be different.
Different, yes.
Part of what drew me to it, and I'll admit, I did a DNA test last year to see if I was part French, and I can't prove that I am. It's mainly German and English, although... And part Swedish, which was I didn't know. They want you to make all these connections, to find out what you are. And I don't want to make all those connections. That sounds terrible, but I have enough people to connect with and things to do. But they said that Brittany is the most like Cornwall, and I had not been to Cornwall because that obviously the name, the British influence. My friend who had the French background, she said, you need to see the standing stones at Karnak.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's a highlight.
So let's say I took the train to Rennes and picked up my car and drove north. And I kind of circled the coast. I went to Mont Saint-Michel, which of course is touristy, but I was so glad I went.
Of course. So many paintings about this.
Yes. And I went around the peninsula, mainly traveling that coast.
Beautiful. And you were on your own the whole time.
I was on my own.
Nice.
My only big revelation, I have to tell you, is when I got home. Later on, I discovered that I had gotten a speeding ticket. I mean, when you translate the mileage, I was going like 58 miles and a 55.
Yeah.
I haven't resolved that. I have spent hours trying to. So right now I'm a fugitive and I can't drive in France. So
this is the
problem.
This is the secret reason of our call today. You're busted.
Well, apparently it was radar on the freeway near Quimper. How do you pronounce that?
Quimper.
Quimper. I was near there, so I knew it was legitimate, but but at any rate, I loved driving, let's see, Le Conquet. Is that how you pronounce it?
Le Conquet, yes, probably.
It was a beautiful place.
You traveled a lot.
Well, I try to put in too much, but that's all right. The first trip, I stayed very near Sarlat for 2 weeks and hardly drove distances. Couple of places that were interesting. I know I'm backtracking. Near Sarlat, there was a art colony called Marials or something like that. I mean, why? And it looked a little far to drive, but I found myself near there one day. And that was fun to talk to artists that were from there. There was a little art colony, which back to Joshua Tree, I'll say, we've always wanted to become an art colony like Laguna or Carmel. And now that we're very trendy, we want to take back those words in a way, some of us. When I was up in Brittany talking about anecdotes, one Sunday morning, I heard the church bells. And I went to the church, the Sunday church, and there was nobody there. I thought, well, this is really kind of sad. And I sat down with my sketch pad and began watercoloring. And a young man, he came and talked to me. And he said, well, first of all, the church officiant or whatever, he goes to another church every other week. So every other week we have church. And he talked to me a bit, especially about medical procedures in the U.S. He had a bad back and he wanted to know where he could go. Anyway, he came back about 45 minutes later and he said, you're still here. And he said, wait, I have to go get something. And I'm like, okay. And he came back with this beautiful book, a sketch book. It was The Island Where... I did write things down. Who was the famous British actress in the turn of the century? Oh, good grief. Everybody knows her. She lived on this island for a little while. Surmare, something like that. Oh, good grief. You would
find
know.
out. Yeah.
Yes, I'm embarrassed. But the incident, the thing that was so sweet is he said, "Oh, we French, we have a tradition of hospitality, and you should have this book." And it
There
was
you go.
small enough to carry home. I was honored. I
Yeah.
had so many good experiences. And as an American, that people say, "Oh, the French are rude or mean," or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, they do.
They-
In my recent 7 weeks of being there, had nobody be rude. They were lovely. I mean, the closest I had, I had a
Oops.
little phone problem in Sarlat, and I went to the Orange Company or whatever to talk to somebody English speaking there, and he wasn't there that day. And I was kind of like, oh, I need to talk to someone. And a lady said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "From California." And she said, "That is her problem." But you know what? That's the only person ever that was slightly.
We're doing our best.
It was pretty funny. I find if you are nice to people, they are nice back. And I tried to say bonjour, merci, au revoir. When I went into a shop, I tried to abide by, customs that you have. Good grief. When you go to some other place, you are in their home.
Have you been to many restaurants and brasseries?
Yes and no.
Croissant cliché.
I did a lot of my own cooking while I was there. And I love to go to the market and just buy my food and save money and cook.
Good.
But now, what was the last term you said?
All the croissant cliché, that every American wants to have.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you can't go to France and not eat out. I mean, it's. I'm trying to think where I went. In Paris, I'm not, like the restaurant at the Jacques Mart.
There's
even places like when I was I knew to go to the Ile de Saint Louis. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
And of course, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
But I bought a small quiche, ate that. It's inexpensive. I go, this is wonderful. I mean, truly, for the price that you would go in and buy a hamburger in the States, you can get something delicious. I had some very lucky, I think, experiences when I went to see Saint-Chapelle.
Oh, yeah.
That particular day, I bought tickets to return in the evening and hear a string quartet. So not only did I visit and I drew in there, and then I went back in the evening and heard a concert, which was just lovely. But I had, I guess you would say, time to kill. And I go, well, I'm going to stay here on the island all day. Why not? I discovered the Place Dauphine.
Place Dauphine, yes. Wow.
So pretty.
You've been everywhere.
I haven't been everywhere. I'm constantly finding things and going, I was not there.
Of course.
The lunch in the cafe looked wonderful, and it was wonderful. And I usually sit and I will sketch while I am, while I'm there. For example, when I was in the Latin Quarter on the last trip, I met a lady. Now, she was originally from Scotland. We're still corresponding. And her father worked in the States, and she had gone to high school in the States, but she married a Frenchman in the 60s. So she's been French forever. And she said, when you come back from your art workshop, you meet me for a coffee. And she took me to the Palais Royal.
Oh, wow.
And I was like,
nice place.
I know, what a lovely place. And I was a guest. She showed me that restaurant where, the very expensive restaurant where Napoleon ate. Starts with a V, I want to say.
The V, wow.
Oh, I watched the Silly Emily in Paris. I mean, people do. And they ended up eating there. And I go, I know where that place is.
Okay.
And my friend, she said that she takes each of her family members there once in their life. So we kind of went and looked at the menu. She was planning a celebration. So you had a good time. Oh, everything was great. Yes. Questions.
You consider yourself as a Francophile?
I do.
Yeah. And how do you define that? I know it's a tough question.
That's all right, because, I guess to all French people, it's embarrassing to say that I spent several decades as an Anglophile. I still love England and the little cottages. Francophile, the more I learn about French beauty and culture, I mean, you have had a tumultuous history as England and even the United States. Good grief. I mean, it wasn't just the Civil War. It was like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So I do respect the things that have gone on. But I think, Francophile means lover of France, and everything that I found, I really enjoyed. I mean, from fresh food, from eating more slowly. In fact, I had a little page somewhere with things that I think we should do. I read before I went that when you sit down at a cafe, the average time that it will take for a waiter to come and serve you. Do you know how long that's supposed to be?
No, but from my experience, I can imagine.
Well, they said 17 minutes.
Wow. Yeah.
Which to an American is just outrageous. Well, if you go knowing that, I got out my sketch pad. I just decided it was lovely. I'm sitting here at your table enjoying this beautiful view, and you're not going to kick me out. You're going to let me relax. Now, of course, when you're in your work years, hurry. If it were my lunch hour, I would not have that luxury. The food was wonderful. The organic food. Okay, I had never had, good grief. Duck liver. What do you call it? Good grief.
Which one?
The duck liver pate. What am I
the
trying
foie
to
gras.
say? The foie gras.
Yes.
I didn't think I would like it, and I did.
Of course, everybody does. Everybody feels guilty about it, but everybody does.
I know. It's one of those things. I don't know. So there were many things that I discovered that I liked. The simplicity, I think. Tell me if I'm right. The French tend to buy a few good items and be happy with that, clothing, etc.
Yes.
Whereas we tend to want to get bargain things and have a lot.
Yes,
and
it's true.
I'm in the process of clearing a lot of stuff from decades of being married.
I agree. I can understand that. And I'm going back to you. You opened a shop, an online shop called French Press.
I did.
It's a collection of cards, calendars, paper goods. Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, first of all, I do love coffee. So, ever since my last trip to France, I've been using nothing but my French press to make my coffee in. Okay. One great thing, it sounds silly, you never leave it plugged in.
No, yeah, it's true.
I mean, how many times during my working life I would go, did I leave the coffee pot on? And of course, we have some that will automatically go off. So I love coffee, and I began to think about French press as a name, and I looked around, and there aren't too many. I couldn't find a stationery shop named that. So I thought that was kind of cute or whatever.
That was good.
Catchy.
Original.
Trying. It's very hard to be original in this world. It's impossible, in fact. And I tended to, when I was sketching in France, in fact, I grabbed my calendar that I did I've done 3 now. My very first sketch was from the Jardin du Luxembourg. Mm-hmm. And that day was my 3rd day in Paris. And I said, okay, Janis, if you don't take your watercolors out now and start sketching, you will never do it. That's just it. And I was very pleased with my results. However, because everybody seems to go to France and start watercoloring with black pen and ink sketches, I think I want to evolve back to more impressionist painting. Mm-hmm. So I'm divided between what I call a more commercial line with sketches of places. That first year I came home and I put a calendar together and everybody loved it. And last year, let's see. We all lost 220, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah.
So I had a little 18 calendar. I did a calendar in 19, and I began to look at Etsy shops, and I said, "Oh my goodness!" So, I'm not changing the world with it, but it is fun
Nice.
to connect.
They're
with
original.
people.
I
They
really
are
I
a
really
little
like
bit different.
the structure of it and everything, and it's a good tribute to France and Europe, because like not everyone can see it now because I'm on video, but what you showed me was really good, and I will put the link on the show
Thank
notes,
you.
obviously, so people
Thank you.
listening can check out your shop online and,
Well, and it's
order
been
it. Yeah.
interesting how many people they bought them for gifts and things. They said, "Oh my goodness, my mother loves Paris. I need to buy one for her." Or there were just a lot of connections.
Definitely.
And I'm learning how long it takes to mail things, somewhere.
Yeah.
I had somebody send one to their mother in Australia,
Yeah.
and I noticed that it hadn't arrived. I wrote her. She said, "Oh, that's okay. It always takes a little while. Don't even worry about it." And as soon as it did, she was very happy.
Nice. And what are your future plans? Do you have something coming up that you want to talk about?
Well, you mean as far as French press or in general?
French press and in general.
The few wedding things that I have done have been popular. I think of June as wedding season, and I don't know if that is true in France.
There is plenty
Okay.
of weddings in June.
So I'm expanding that. I'm thinking of more items for the bride, note cards and such, and gift enclosures, and that sort of thing, and sketching and just expanding that. And weddings are such a wonderful experience, and I hope. It's funny, last night as I was thinking about this, I happened to hear a podcast, and they were talking about romantic relationships, and they said, if you're planning to get married, you should go slow. One of the tips of advice that I heard was you should be engaged to that person through 4 seasons.
Oh, that's a good idea, I think. So you can see all the facets of them.
And thinking about today, I thought that's something I will share, because to go through, I
agree with that.
Spring, summer, and it might take you through 4 emotions
Yeah.
So I share that. And of course, weddings happen
all the time.
So I don't have to have everything ready in June. And then I do painting commissions. I shouldn't say this. Painting commissions are hard.
Okay, tell us the concept. Can you explain what it is for those who don't know?
When somebody says, "I want this painting created for me," it can be challenging, because they have an idea in your head and you have an idea, and you have to send sketches back and forth and work it out. Okay. So I'm currently working on one. She wants a large one. It's let's see, 48 by 30, and it's the woman and her dog on the coast in California.
Okay, cool.
But large, sort of impressionistic, sort of abstract. So, but I've got to please my customer. So that's coming up. Nice. So I do those occasionally.
I have a question for you, Janis, regarding digital art. Have you heard of NFTs or not? Do you know what that is? Maybe not. This is something that I think you will be interested in, and I will develop it just for the sake of it. This is a new way to monetize digital art. I don't know if you heard of it. Now, there was a guy recently, I remember seeing an article on him where he sold the digital image for like 7 million. That's what we're talking about? That's the crazy. That's the crazy part of it. Basically, they are creating digital scarcity. What does that mean? Digital scarcity. The scarce, the fact that you can make something unique. So basically, to make it very simple for everyone, people are let's say I'm taking a picture of the Eiffel Tower. This picture before NFTs were basically, you could copy it every time, like you can make 10 million copies of it. And the artist will be would be stolen, let's say.
Yes.
But now through the new concept of blockchain, all this Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies madness, out of this, they're all working through let's call it a network called blockchain. And without being too technical, the blockchain gives you the opportunity to take this Eiffel Tower picture and make it unique through digital. It means that it's not going to be just one image. It's going to be an image related to a serial number, let's say. And this will make your art unique. So this looks very crazy right now. But I think that in 5 years, it's going to be, this episode would be listened in another way, very carefully because of that. So I just suggest, since you're a digital artist, you are an artist, but you can be more digital. I suggest that you get more information on NFTs, non-fungible tokens.
Sounds good.
I think it's
well, because the old-fashioned part of me tends to say, no, it's not real if it wasn't painted with a paintbrush, that sort of thing. And yet I have played with my images a little bit.
Yeah.
I had a show about 3 years ago where, frankly, I didn't have a lot of time. And I said, I'm going to take my original paintings. I'm going to play with them and put them into different colors, etc. And, for the one small show, that's what I did.
Nice.
And so I'm not totally opposed to it. And I've got some images with my, this one was heightened in color with the computer.
Beautiful couple.
Yeah.
Beautiful cutters.
So, and the origin of that one picture that got me into this, my daughter was in France a number of years ago, and she took some lovely photos. That was from her photo.
Okay.
About the time my son was getting married. Oh my goodness. I started painting brides. You just, I don't know, it's in your head and you begin doing it. You're very hopeful. And I sent that article about that $7 million digital image to my son. He's a programmer.
Oh, okay.
He's near San Francisco, and
Okay. Nice.
I always check things out with him.
Yeah, I think it would be very interesting. And to finish this episode, I will ask you another question. I'd like to know, what would you advise to American brides, American grooms, when it comes to choosing France or Paris as a wedding destination? What would you say?
Ooh, and you would think I'd have something all prepared, but if you are considering France, first of all, I would encourage anybody who loves beauty and, history, culture, language, good food to consider France as a destination. And I would think even the simplest of weddings might be very memorable. I've seen the chateau weddings where they're obviously spending an enormous amount. And yet I think something, I guess from what I'm hearing, the French often get married at the marry first, or that's the traditional ceremony, which is very opposed to our idea of a wedding.
Yeah.
But I think you could make that simple, classic, beautiful vow there that will give you something to last a lifetime. And photos are wonderful. We've all gotten photo crazy. We think we have to photo every minute of our lives. But I journal a lot, and I really cherish my journals. Now, as a bride and groom in love, they might not be thinking about journaling. But I think some advice would be journal about it before you go, and journal a little bit during the moment, and then come back and reflect. I think if you're prone to writing, the pictures and the written memory might be very lovely.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you so much, Janis, for this great episode. It was longer than expected, and it's great like that. Always starts like this. Yes. We do talk. That was the goal.
My feelings for you under lockdown, it's hard to picture Paris now that we've all adjusted to seeing all of the cities of the world. Of quiet. It's hard to see that. So my heart goes out to you guys while you're.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Shout
I'm
out.
hoping we all learn lessons from this and don't go back to all the crazy busyness we were in.
I know. That's crazy. We'll see, but thank you so much for your words anyway, going out to the French people. And thank you so much again, Janis, for taking the time to share this moment with me from California. And we'll see us very soon. Thank you.
Oh, I hope you can return to California.
I will always go back to California.
And the desert.
Thank you, Janis.
All right.
Hey guys, thanks again for listening to the show today. You can find more information on our guests in the show notes, as well as my contact and my website. If you have any questions regarding your French wedding, I'm happy to help. Also, please do not hesitate to leave a review for the show. There's also a link for that. That will literally take 1 minute of your precious time and will mean the world to me. I always appreciate your support. Thank you again very much for your time and feedback. Wishing you a great day or a great night anywhere you are in the world. I send you some good vibrations and we'll talk to you again soon for a new episode. Bye bye.